turned Clemson into a very, very elite program, which a lot of people in the upstate are not used to that. They're used to Clemson losing and the term Clemsoning. That is completely different now under Dabo Swinney. But I wanted to know, when do you think Clemson are going to start getting respect for the likes of Alabama? Or if Michigan is having a good year, Michigan gets more buzz than Clemson. But Clemson has been in the playoffs ever since it was created.
Yeah, they have. Michigan, in my opinion, is fool's gold. They're having a nice year this year. I think they're very well coached defensively, and I think they're feasting on the fact that the Big Ten is not a very good league this year as well. But, everybody was pumping Wisconsin coming into this year, and then, of course, Wisconsin's fallen on their face. We just saw Ohio State got ran out of West Lafayette at Purdue. So I think this is a year where a lot of people are touting Michigan. And, look, they may run the table, and if they run the table and they win the Big Ten, then they're going to be in the playoff. And more than likely, they're going to have to play Alabama or Clemson, and then I think we'll see where they really stack up. But, Dabo has built this. To me, Clemson is already on the level of Alabama. When you look at the way that they're recruiting, when you look at the way that they're developing players, to me, there's no question that there's Alabama and Clemson, and then the rest of college football, and it's a big drop from those two.
Right.
I just don't see any other team with a roster, top to bottom, that can match up with either Alabama or Clemson at this point in time. And as long as they hold serve, then they're probably going to play for the national title here within the next 6 weeks or so.
Once again, we're here with Josh Phillips, offensive coordinator and now quarterback coach for Blue Ridge High School. Also, just to transition to our other school here in upstate, South Carolina. They're a little bit opposite of Clemson, sitting there at 4-3. There was a lot of hope coming into the season. Now you have some of the fan base screaming for Jake Bentley to go away, and they want him to take Muschamp with him. What happened to South Carolina this season, and do you see Muschamp lasting another season after this one?
Yeah, I think he's going to be there for a while. South Carolina, to their credit, is recruiting at a very high level in and of themselves. Let's not forget where this program was at when he took over for Steve Spurrier. Spurrier resigned in the middle of the season, and this roster was literally loaded with nothing but walk-ons and players that nobody else wanted. So it's taken him a few years. Right now, the problem is twofold for South Carolina. Is they don't have the defensive front or the depth. They've got talent, but it's very young. But they don't have the depth along the defensive line yet to match up with their linebacker and DB level talent that they've brought in, and that takes time. The other issue is Jake Bentley, and I've made this argument literally since the young man has been there. And the argument is he's an average quarterback. He's got an average arm. He makes average decisions. That's why you see the highs and the lows, and that's why there's no consistency within him. And I think a lot of people had some unrealistic expectations for this young man because of where he ranked in the rankings of rivals coming out of Alabama. Of course, his dad being Bobby Bentley, who made his name for himself at Burns. That there was just a lot of high expectations that unless he delivered an SEC championship, he was never going to be good enough unless he did that. Well, that's a lot to put on any kid to get done in his career at South Carolina when the roster was as depleted as it was. Now, they've turned it around. Carolina has some outstanding wide receivers. They've got some nice backs. I wouldn't say they're elite. But they've got a couple of guys they're recruiting right now that could be. And then, of course, they're doing an outstanding job of recruiting the quarterback position. They've got the Helinski kid that's coming in from California, who I think is an outstanding football player. And will probably, if Jake comes back, he'll probably beat him out if he decides to come back. And then you throw in the fact that they've got Luke Doty out of Myrtle Beach, who is more of an athlete than he is a quarterback. But we've seen that, the Connor Shaw type quarterbacks can get it done at South Carolina. And then, of course, everybody wants to know about the Kerryon Joyner, who I think they're probably going to end up moving to wide receiver when it's all said and done, or put together some packages for that young man, because he is too fast and too talented not to have on the field. But the issues that you're seeing now, when South Carolina faces elite talent defensively cannot be beaten by an average or pedestrian quarterback. And even though he had a lot of fanfare, the truth of the matter is Jake Bentley, he's a solid Division I quarterback, but he's not going to beat an elite defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we transition to the NFL, I'm going to go ahead and bring in a word from our sponsors, which is Philip Price of State Farm. So, Coach, we're going to go ahead and play this commercial and check right back with you. Give me 1 second. Hey guys, Tyler Butler here from Enough with the BS podcast, and I'm here to tell you about our good friends down at Philip Price State Farm in Easley. As a father and a husband, I know how difficult it can be to get insurance. Well, it became so simple after talking with Philip and his excellent staff. I would highly recommend you going to 1021 South Pillington Street in Easley, or call and get a free quote at 864-859-5741. And for a bonus, Philip actually played for our hometown Clemson Tigers. But always, and I do remember always, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. All right, so the Carolina Panthers are looking like one of the best teams in the NFL right now, 5-2, coming off a big game, dropping 36 on the number one ranked defense, Baltimore Ravens. Cam had a game throwing for 219 and rushing for 52. Who also had a big game was a rookie, DJ Moore, who had 5 catches for 90 yards. But, Coach, it seemed like Cam is having a pretty good year so far because there's not a whole lot of distractions. I know last year was the female reporter incident, then there was walking away from the podium. Do you look at Carolina as one of the elite teams in the NFC who can compete with the Rams?
I think so. I mean, when you look at Carolina, they're back to their Super Bowl year where they're running the football really well. They're getting nice protection from their offensive line. They're able to hit some plays down the field. They're protecting Cam better. He's running when he wants to, not because he has to. And that also gives the defense rest when you're able to move the chains the way that they have. So I definitely think that Carolina is finding their groove. They're very balanced right now. And when you can rest that defense and get a couple of first downs, score 28 points or so, then the talent of that defense and that front seven is really going to be able to take over the game, and that's exactly what we saw against Baltimore. So I'll be interested to see what happens towards the end of the year. I definitely like the Rams, and I love what Sean McVay is doing with that club. I mean, when you look across each level, Jared Goff is playing exceptional football right now. Of course, Todd Gurley is a man among boys at this point in time. They're getting great production from their wide receivers and Cooper Kupp, along with a couple other guys. And then defensively, they're led by Aaron Donald, who's the best defensive tackle in the National Football League. So I don't think that L.A. is going anywhere, and it seems like those two are the class of the NFC right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, not a local team, but definitely America's team. The Dallas Cowboys made 2 big moves this week. They recently fired their head coach who came from Cincinnati and promoted former offensive lineman Mark Colombo. And they made a big trade with the Oakland Raiders for Amari Cooper. Real quickly, do you see any of these moves having a positive impact on the Dallas Cowboys this season?
Did they trade Jason Garrett?
No.
Okay, then nothing's going to change. They're still going to be a schlub of a team and as long as Cooley is on the sidelines, then at best Dallas will be an 8-8. If they get lucky, they'll be 10-6, somewhere along in that realm. But until Jason Garrett gets gone, it's not really going to matter.
Now, speaking of coaches in the Oakland Raiders, John Gruden, I'm not sure what is going on over there. All these, what's the word I'm looking for? Turnover that's going on in Oakland. How does this affect the player-coach relationship when he's basically the general manager?
Well, I think right now the guys are just trying to hold on. Everybody in the world knows that they're fire sailing the franchise, that they're starting from scratch and going to rebuild it. It's almost like the Davises, along with Gruden, are saying, okay, we're moving to Las Vegas. Once we get to Las Vegas, we're going to build this thing back from scratch, from the ground up. Try to acquire as many assets and draft picks as we can, save money, then get that big stadium. I think it's $2 billion they're building there in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
take that money
crazy.
along with the NFL revenue and then rebuild this roster with younger players and then hopefully find a quarterback. They said they're committed to Derek Carr.
I don't believe
We'll wait and see. But they've got a lot of work to do, and I think that's the plan, is to tear it down to build it back up. And this will be John Gruden's legacy. They're paying him, what, $100 million?
$100 million.
Over
10 years.
Yeah, over 10 years. They got him out of the booth. This is a chance for him to prove that, hey, he knows how to build a legitimate NFL franchise, and if within 4 or 5 years they're playing in the Super Bowl, then you can tip your hat. And he can kind of get out from underneath the fact that a lot of people give him an asterisk when he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, because everybody wants to say, well, those were Tony Dungy's players, and if Tony would have stayed, they would have won it. Well, this is his opportunity to get that moniker out from underneath him. If he can tear it down, build it back up, put his thumbprint on it, and see what type of coach and general manager he is.
Absolutely. And also, just a couple of quick notes today. There were a few trades. Ha Clinton Dix was traded to the Redskins. The Philadelphia Eagles picked up Golden Tate. Both of those trades make me sick to my stomach because they really improve both teams, and they make that Dallas trade look laughable right now. Demaryius Thomas, the star wide receiver from the Broncos, was traded to Houston, giving former Clemson Tiger Deshaun Watson another weapon. He has 2 terrific wide receivers now down there in Houston. I wish Dallas could do the same, but for Dak. But unfortunately, we have what we have: Allen Hurns and Michael Gallup and Cole Beasley, 0 tight ends, and a questionable offensive line. Oh, Dallas! What it feels like to be a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're just going to have to suffer through until Jerry is put in the hurt. That's the only way this is going to get better. I know it's Halloween, but I think it's too early to ask for that Christmas present at this point in time. If you're a Cowboys fan, as long-suffering as you and I are, because he can't seem to get out of his way, and he's got I don't even know. I guess he's a puppet. That's the only thing. He doesn't do anything on the sideline. Every time, I've never seen him coach a guy up. And then, of course, they make the Amari Cooper trade. But it doesn't matter because the head coach doesn't know what he's doing. But Denver, I like the move that Houston made to acquire Demaryius Thomas. That tells me they feel like they were a secondary receiver away from dethroning the New England Patriots, and they are going all in that this is their year to win the Super Bowl. That's when a team like Houston makes the move that they do by giving away draft picks, taking a veteran like Demaryius Thomas. They're saying, we're putting our chips in the middle of the table, we're going all in, and we're saying this year we're going to compete for the Super Bowl. That's the one piece that's keeping us from competing for the Super Bowl. So we're going to go all in. Their defense is fantastic. They finally have J.J. Watt healthy. They finally have Jadeveon Clowney, who is just a terror right